Is there someone in your life you need to let go of, but you're holding on because you're supposed to, or because someone told you that you're supposed to? Let's talk about it. Now, this is gonna be a very uncomfortable video for me, but I think it's very important that I share this story, and hopefully anybody that relates, you understand. So let's just get into it. So letting go sounds very simple till it's something or someone that you expected was supposed to be there forever. This video is for anyone who has been told they should feel a certain way about someone, but they can't figure out why, and they don't feel that. But they don't feel that way, and they can't figure out why. Now, letting go is typically not this big dramatic thing, a big fight. I'm never coming back again. Sometimes it is like that, sometimes. But a lot of times it's quiet, it's a decision, it's just a choice. That's a choice. It's a choice to choose to stop reaching for that thing or that person or whatever. And I've noticed that typically when you let go, you tend to feel lighter. And now let's get to the part to where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't talk about this, I don't know, but that's not what we do, Anthony, that's not what we do. This is refusing to shrink, so I'm not going to suppress the discomfort because I feel like I'm not supposed to say anything. I'm gonna say it and it'll connect with who it needs to connect with. So for me, that person has been my mom. It's been close to 2 years since I made the decision to let go of the relationship. And of course, every relationship has ups and downs. The things over at that point to where I said, you know what, I have to choose my peace over this relationship is around 2 years ago. It was one of my birthdays. And typically in my experience, you speak to your parents on your birthday. Oh, happy birthday. I remember when you was this age, stuff like that. At least that's what it had always been with both my mom and my dad. My dad has since passed, but my mom was still present. And so that year, and I noticed with her, she has certain behavior tendencies, which my dad mentioned growing up. You're gonna find out about your mama when you get older. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I've come to understand what that means now. So on this particular birthday, I did not get a call from her, which was abnormal because usually you get a call. And so I remember she called me the day after, and that bothered me because I would have thought that anybody that would have told me happy birthday, it would have been you. So she called me, and I remember I was in my feelings about not getting that call on the day of. And I remember she said something along the lines of that she forgot. And so in my head, I'm just like, which I had been to therapy for, I think it had been close to 2 years or maybe a year and a half at that point, somewhere in there. I had been going to therapy for a while, so I was starting to understand and recognize certain behavioral things and stuff like that just from working with my therapist. And so through the conversation, I was like, there's an attempt to gaslight me here. So when she said that she forgot, in my head, I'm like, your firstborn child that you've told many times over their life that doctors told you would never be able to have a child, you just so happen to forget their birthday. And you are fully mentally functional, because I know there are conditions where it affects memory and whatnot, but I'm like, you're fully functional, you're not disabled or anything. How did you forget? And it's one thing where you forget with remorse, but it was like I forgot with I don't know what this means, but with this. So I was like, so I remember we're talking about whatever we're talking about. And she said this statement to me, which she had said to me before in a previous phone call, and I thought it was a mistake. And at that point in the phone call on my birthday, I said, oh, got it. So the statement she says to me is, I'm surprised that you're doing well. And I remember the first time I was like, oh, it was just a dyslexic moment. She just got the words backwards. And somebody could overhear my conversation when I was talking to her the first time. And they was like, what did she say to you? And I was like, oh, that's not what she meant. That's not what she did. But that time I said, oh, that is what she meant. You're surprised that I'm doing well, which means you thought that I wasn't, which means that you don't want me to. So it was at that point where I made the decision. I said, you know what? I cannot do this anymore. And so I let the conversation end however it ended. I do remember I was very disengaged after that point. I was just like, I'm just gonna let her finish whatever she wanted to say, whatever. Also, side note, the phone that she called me on was the phone that I bought her as well. So there was always a weird energy there. I was showing up the best that I could, and it was just not enough, which we could get, there's a lot more to that, but we just gonna dip our toe in the water right now. So when the phone call ended, I decided to go ahead and block that number and delete that number out of my phone because my peace is more important than a relationship with a parent. That relationship is not bringing me peace, it has to go. I don't care who it is. So I just share all that with you to say if you have anything, relationship, environment, anything like that that's making you worse, just reassess that. And it's not just the act of letting go, it's also the interactions and the conversations afterwards where people are like, oh, it's Mother's Day, my mom and I did this. Oh, my mom is getting surgery and she's my best friend. I'm gonna be off for a month and help take care of her. And I love that for those people, but I just don't relate to it. And I'm not even gonna sit up here and say that I'm fully healed from that because healing is a process. There's ebbs and flows with it. I say obviously I've healed to a certain point to be able to share this online on the internet. But yet now that I don't feel anything with that, just, I don't know. But I have reached back out to my therapist, hey girl, you need to have a convo. So I just get on here to share all my business. But I would like for you to ask yourself, what are you holding on to right now because you think you're supposed to? Not because it's serving you, not because it's healthy, but because you're supposed to. Or because someone told you that you're supposed to. And then a follow-up question to that could be, what would feel lighter if you put it down? Letting go is not about giving up. It's about making room and making space for peace, for growth, for love, for what's actually meant for you during this season of your life. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And as always, we do our best and we let God do the rest.